Dit is MotoMe, een serie die gaat over motorrijden. Dus niet zozeer over het allernieuwste model, het allernieuwste pak of de allernieuwste helm. Nee, eigenlijk zoeken we het antwoord op de vraag, waarom rijden wij nou eigenlijk motor?
Nou, wat wij zoeken, dat is die oorsprong van het motorrijden, die puurheid, die authenticiteit, die hartslag.
Ja, precies. We gaan ook wel motorfietsen testen. We gaan ook wel kijken naar kleding en helmen. Maar we gaan ook op bezoek bij bijzondere personen. En personen die misschien wel hele bijzondere motorfietsen maken. En we gaan naar bijzondere locaties. En een van die bijzondere locaties, die zie je hier achter ons. En dat is namelijk die Ace Café Londen. En dat is toch echt wel een mekka voor motorrijders.
Dit moet toch wel echt het epicentrum van het authentieke Britse motorrijden zijn, toch?
Precies. We gaan praten met de eigenaar Mark Wilsmore. En we gaan natuurlijk andere personen interviewen. Hele mooie café-racers zien. En we gaan nog meer doen in deze uitzending. We gaan namelijk ook naar de Ardennen met de allernieuwste V-Strom om hem te testen. En we gaan naar de Intermot in Keulen om te kijken naar de laatste trends voor 2015.
We zijn te gast bij het Ace Café Londen tijdens de befaamde Ace Days. Dit is een jaarlijkse reunie om de unieke historie, cultuur en stijl van het Ace Café te vieren. Het driedaagse evenement trekt jaarlijks tienduizenden liefhebbers vanuit alle uithoeken van de wereld. Als wij aankomen op vrijdagavond, als het feest begint, is het meteen volle bak. Een weerzien van oude vrienden, het maken van nieuwe, het snuffelen aan elkaars motoren, bands, bier en een lichte vorm van anarchie op de weg. Speciaal dit jaar, ter gelegenheid van het 75-jarige bestaan van de Ace, werd er een speciale Triumph Trucks Ace editie overhandigd aan Mark Wilsmore, de eigenaar van het café. En na een korte nacht druppelen om 9 uur 's ochtends de eerste motoren alweer het terrein op. En doen de rijders zich te goed aan een ontbijt dat in onze ogen beter aan die kant van het kanaal kan blijven.
Can you describe a little bit the history of the Ace Café London?
Well, when it first opened in 1938, this road immediately in front of us, North Circular Road, there was no speed limits. It opened as part of an estate that consisted of a gas station next door, motor workshops, motor showrooms, almost like a modern motorway services. And it's the first time something of that ilk had ever been put together.
Yeah.
War comes in 1939, and raiders in November 1940 flattened everything along here, which gave rise to, after the war, the building that stood behind us now being built, because the pre-war building didn't look like this. And that's where it gets interesting, in that immediate post-war period. There's an economic boom that's wrapped up with the explosion, demographic explosion across the European and American world, and it gave rise, as we know, to this term, the teenager. So kids on both sides of the Atlantic went out and bought the fastest vehicles they could afford. Over here in the UK, they went out and bought motorbikes. So they come to fast bits of road, as here. Huge cafe, huge car park, no speed limits, they're racing each other.
Waarom die Ace Café?
Café races, altijd interessant gevonden. En daar hoort de Ace Café bij. Dat is eigenlijk een van de basis van het café racen gebeuren.
Alors monsieur, qu'est-ce qui vous amène ici?
Rock and roll, moto, les amis.
Waarom rij jij nou eigenlijk motor?
Ja, ik rij motor omdat ik wat iedereen zegt, het gevoel van vrijheid.
Heel cliché, hè?
Heel cliché, maar als ik motor rijd, kan ik wel gewoon alles loslaten. Dan ben ik met mijn motor onderweg. Hoef ik verder nergens over na te denken.
Vous roulez en quoi comme moto?
Café Racer BMW.
Pourquoi vous roulez en moto?
C'est ma vie. J'ai roulé en mobilette à 10 ans. Et puis voilà, c'est parti. C'est le vice, c'est là-dedans.
I've been coming here since about 2002, so know Mark, the guy who runs it. And, just friendly atmosphere. Everybody have maybe one beer, but no more. And give it some time before you get back on.
The youngsters at that time, were they bored or were they filled with passion for motorcycles? Which one of the two was it, or was it a combination of the two?
It's kind of a combination. It's the escape of the mundane and perhaps the drudgery and bear in mind, you know, our society today has no real comprehension of what it's like in 1950. Yeah. And going through the 50s and homes, most of which had outside toilets. There were several of you, you and your brothers in one room. So it's speed was the thing. Yeah. Just find that escape, and it was coincidental that all they could afford was a motorbike. And then mid-50s, given that there's jukeboxes in these places, a new music came in from America called rock and roll. And back then, certainly in the UK, it could only be heard on jukeboxes. So all of a sudden there's a soundtrack which the kids identified with, as well as the vehicles, in this instance the bikes and the racing. So a whole, I want to say, identity, a whole culture, if we like, looking back, was born. And that, back then, was the ton-up culture. And its creed, plastered all over newspapers as you get through the 50s, was live fast, love hard, die young.
Well, it's something that places my dad used to come in when he was younger. And when I started riding motorcycles, he sort of brought me down and just liked it. It was all right, yeah.
Okay, and very general question, but why do you ride a motorcycle?
It was something I was exposed to, like I said, when I was younger, due to my dad riding motorcycles. But it was something I didn't really pick up until I sort of found out a little bit more about like cafe racer sort of stuff. And then I sort of found my own interest in it, really, and that's when I started to pick it up myself, to be honest.
Yeah. So it all started with cafe races for you?
Yeah. It's just because my dad's quite into racing and sports and stuff like that, but that wasn't really my cup of tea. And then I stumbled across, things like the old Nortons and Tritons and things like that, and I just thought, I quite liked it. Just, a bit of me.
So it's all about the atmosphere here?
Yeah, it is. I mean, they're a very friendly bunch. There's no judgment. Everybody has their own thing going on. It's not like the guys who ride Triumphs don't like the modern stuff or anything like that, so it's really relaxed.
Is that really a thing of the Ace Cafe, or do you find it somewhere else in the world? Can you find it somewhere else?
No, I don't think so. I've been to all of them. So I've been down to Daytona Bike Week. I've been out to France on a couple of ones on the coast. I've even been to Ireland for a few of their kind of TT deals up there. It just doesn't feel like this, live music and all that.
I think it's quite a lot of young people doing it now, where they're taking sort of older bikes and sort of building them together in their sheds and stuff like that and making them their own. I just think it's a really interesting. It's sort of like, I suppose, like a neo cafe racer movement, isn't it? Really, where people are sort of taking it and making it their own, and it just appeals to me. I just sort of like the mix of that nostalgia with a bit of whatever you bring to it yourself. I quite like.
You go to work, I've got a family with kids and all that sort of thing, and if you want someplace just to have your own head and not think about anything else, the motorcycle is the way to do it. You don't have to think about anything but riding the bike. It's a little bit like it's like therapy.
That's a very cheap shrink.
Yeah, right. They're cheaper than psychiatrists are.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, brother.
When you look around, when you look at yesterday night when it was party, etc., I've seen burnouts and everything. Is that still the true spirit as the good old days, as they say?
It undoubtedly is. The driving dynamics are exactly the same. The geography is the same. All that's changed is technology.
But socially, is it also a part of a piece of anarchy which is going on? Is this reunion? It's about passion for bikes, I think, yeah, but it's also a way of anarchy, isn't it?
I wouldn't say anarchy. It's showing the disconnect between our governments and our leaders, who, for sure, I don't doubt, are trying to do the right thing, as it were, by their nations. But actually, there's a huge disconnect between the haves and the have-nots. Yeah. There's a phase, and perhaps we're in that phase, which is you can escape that, you can forget that by just the adrenaline and the concentration that's required to survive out on that carriageway.
Isn't it your role, the role of the Ace Cafe and our role all together to educate young people?
It is about education, and that is the role of the older generation, to look after the next one. But education comes in many ways. It can be by example, or enforced is not a good way, because people generally rebel against enforced. What seems to me the increasing nationalism that's resurgent across our ageing demographic is not a healthy thing. No. And youngsters, I think, sense that. So it's like, forget that. Yeah. Let's go. Let's go and do wheelies on the North Circular through the buses and the trucks. Yeah. Ever since man has walked this earth, he's tried to race the next bloke, yeah, exactly, to win the girl, to prove to himself and to everybody else. That is a human flaw, a human character flaw it may be, but that's really what this place is about. It's that driving thing for speed. If we were riding horses, there'd be racing horses out there. The Romans had the problem with chariot racing in the city, horse races, and all the betting through ancient Rome. Had to call out the guard to stop them. It's no different today.
Why are you here at the Ace Cafe?
To have an enjoyable time and meet like-minded people like yourself and enjoy the adventure of these bikes. To put it bluntly, I'll probably meet some crazy people with the same heart as mine who walk around on this world with a good grace. Yeah.
Very good, very good. Okay, secondly, it's a very general question, but why do you ride a motorcycle?
I'm addicted. I rode a motorcycle when I was 5 years old. And
5? You're like this small?
5 years old and could never look back. In fact, it was my ambition to have as many motorcycles as I possibly could. You fall off, you get back up and you do it again. In fact, it becomes a bit of your personality.
Warum fahren Sie Motorrad?
Oh, Motorrad. Motorrad fahre ich seit ich 16 bin. Sozusagen seit 30 Jahren. Ich finde es einfach toll, wenn es stinkt, Krach macht, raucht und Geld kostet.
The more you get into it, the more you learn, the more addictive it is. And a lot of people say it's the freedom. Quite frankly, it is.
De derde dag van de reunie staat in het teken van de invasie van Brighton. De ingeslapen Engelse kustplaats krijgt tijdens dit weekend vele tienduizenden motorrijders te verwerken. Gelukkig is Madeira Drive kilometers lang en dus een uitstekende parkeerplaats. Grote, niet merkgebonden bijeenkomsten van gepassioneerde rijders zoals deze zijn voor Europese begrippen redelijk uniek. Wil je dit zelf ervaren? Dat kan ieder jaar en op de motor zit je zo in Londen. 11, 12 en 13 september 2015 is de 22e editie van het evenement. Houd de site van het Ace Café in de gaten.